And I thought while we wait, so I do have some AI related jokes that I thought I could share as an icebreaker. So hopefully this is not a tough crowd, but something to just lighten the mood here. So I have 3 jokes, so hopefully you guys find them funny. The first one is, what is AI's favorite music? It's algorithms. I love that one. Second, how does a young man refer to his AI-based girlfriend? Database. I thought that was a good one. And then last but not least, they've made a new artificially intelligent Oreo. It's one smart cookie. So I thought I'd open with that there. We love our good AI jokes here. So we'll give it just a few more seconds to let everyone come in. So before we begin, welcome everyone. So excited that you're joining us today. Just a few housekeeping items that I want to run through. So we will be recording this awesome session today, and we will make sure to send it to you after the event wraps up. And then we've slotted time for Q&A at the end as well. So throughout the session here, please submit your questions, and we will try to get to as many as possible. And then just a quick statement from Salesforce on the next slide here. So please make sure all purchasing decisions are based on currently available products. Future roadmap or timelines may change. And then we'll hit the next slide for the fun stuff, the reason that everybody's here today. So thank you so much again for joining us. I'm Kelsey Chisholm, Director of Marketing here at NeuroFlash, and I'm absolutely honored to be introducing our amazing speakers today. So I'm going to give the floor to Patrick Barrys to introduce himself, and then we'll hear from Dan Hamilton on the Salesforce side to do the same and get us going. So Patrick, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. So my name is Patrick Barrys. I'm Head of Product and Innovation at NeuroFlash, and super happy to be joining you guys today and joining my dear friend Dan to talk about kind of the strength of the Service Cloud product, how it fits in with AI, and what we see on the field in terms of what customers are actually doing with the technology and how it's improving their organization. I had the pleasure of working at Salesforce for many years, so I may chime in on a few things on the Salesforce side as we go. But with that, over to you, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Hey, everybody. So happy to be here. So I'm Dan. I'm on the competitive strategy team at Salesforce. I worked with Service Cloud for over 9 years now. So spent a lot of time with Patrick, right, over the years. Spent a lot of time with our customers. And yeah, we're just really excited to kind of share our perspective of how customers are kind of applying AI to their service operations, and share some feedback on why customers why Salesforce is a great choice for these kinds of workloads. So just in terms of our agenda today, I'm going to start off just kind of sharing the Salesforce perspective on how we're seeing AI in service, how we're baking some of that into the product. Patrick is also going to share his perspective on how NeuroFlash is working with customers to deliver like practical AI today. There's so much hype out there, like it's very difficult to cut through it. So NeuroFlash has a ton of experience actually making this real for customers. Patrick's got a great demo too that we're going to show, and then we should have some time for Q&A at the end. So with that, we can jump right into the content. So I think everyone on this call is probably feeling this pressure, right? Ever since ChatGPT kind of was released to the world at the end of 2022, every executive across like every industry is really pressuring operational teams. Hey, like, how are we going to use AI? There's this transformational opportunity, but we also have to get it right? And I think in support, at least the customers that we're talking to, they're saying this is one of the number one areas where we see opportunity for AI in our business, both to drive kind of efficiency, productivity, new levels of self-service, right? Automation. There's just so much upside with AI, but it's kind of difficult, right? I mean, a lot of the state from where our customers are, we can't really harness AI effectively immediately, right? We're used to kind of a lot of probably manual processes, different, like a very complex tech stack with multiple applications, multiple data sources, processes that aren't really, self-learning, like they're very static and kind of point in time, and a huge focus on just kind of operations. Now, AI creates a lot of opportunity, but if we go to the next slide, there's also kind of, it's not easy, right? Like, I mean, I think trust in AI this is the number one thing that our customers are asking us about, is how do we kind of deploy AI in the right way so that we don't risk bad interactions with our customers. I mean, there's tons of stories out there already. You can already see of, organizations who have deployed AI in customer service, and the results haven't been great. I mean, there's even lawsuits out there, right, with customers who had a bad, AI powered experience, and now the company is kind of on the hook for what that was. So it's very like there's a lot of upside with AI, but it's also very easy to do it wrong, right? There's also a lot of kind of just understanding of like what can we do with AI? I mean, there's a skill gap here, there's a process gap. Another thing that we see too is, AI is only as good as the data that's powering it, right? And when you have your data across multiple different siloed, disconnected databases, it's difficult to actually leverage all that together in the context of AI to drive an actual effective experience for your customers. And, again, it's not just data, it's also a lot of these applications don't really talk to each other. So, our perspective is, Salesforce, we've thought about this a lot for our customers, right? And the great thing is Service Cloud is very well positioned to enable this kind of new AI future for our customers. Service Cloud is a complete service platform. We cover every modality of service for almost every industry out there. There's kind of a different flavor of Service Cloud, and it's very kind of end to end, right? We think a ton about both self-service, but also empowering agents. We think about operations, and we think a ton about omni-channel, and we want to wrap it all with like a layer of automation and kind of process understanding. So, we'll talk a little, we're going to double click on this, but just know that, at Salesforce, we've thought about this a lot, and we do genuinely feel that, Service Cloud is a great option to help usher customers into this new era of AI powered service. But it's not just us, right? I mean, we're very fortunate, right? We have, Gartner, who is the leading analyst in this industry. They've named us a leader for the last 14 years in a row. We've spent a lot of time, I mean, this is all just a testament to the results and the interactions that we've had with our customers. That's why we like the Gartner rating so much, is this is really based on customer feedback. But this has also done a lot more for us too. Like it's kind of, widened the aperture of the different industries and the different types of customers. I think that's one really unique thing about Service Cloud is we are talking and enabling the smallest companies in the world and the largest companies in the world across every industry and every geography, right? And so we're able to take a lot of those best practices and learnings and kind of apply them across all these different scenarios so that, we can ensure that all of our customers are, learning and kind of executing on the best practices for service. So now let me take a minute just on this one, because this is one of my favorite slides, but I know it's very complicated. So I think when you look at the industry, there's a lot of options out there, right? I think what makes Service Cloud really unique is a couple things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a couple minutes. But I think it's important just to ground on when you purchase Service Cloud, when you use Service Cloud, what's actually in the box, right? A lot of times customers will think, oh, it's just, it's a ticketing app, right? It's case management, it's knowledge, it's a little bit of routing and maybe some channels. But the reality is Service Cloud is so much more. So let's start at the bottom, right? I think this is something that we can't ignore. Service Cloud is built natively on the Salesforce platform. So every other investment that you've made in Salesforce, whether it's Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Commerce Cloud, if you're kind of getting into Data Cloud, if you're using Einstein, all these things are connected, right? And so when you use Service Cloud, you have native integration. You can unify your customer data, your customer workflows, visibility across all these different kind of touch points you have with your customers. Our customers see that as a huge opportunity, right? Service should not exist in a silo, and it's the Salesforce platform that enables us to break that silo and give customers a full, I don't want to say customer 360, but a very comprehensive view of their customers. But then if you look at the meat of what's actually in Service Cloud, there's just so much. We have spent years really building what we feel is one of the best agent experiences in the world, especially when it comes to configuring that agent experience for your unique requirements, your unique process, because no two service departments are operating the same way, right? So we spent a lot of time on like agent empowerment, agent empowering features, agent workflows, and just, again, delivering that very rich experience. We've also invested a lot in automation over the years, right? So whether it's, automating a simple workflow or a complex multi-step parallel processing workflow, orchestration, RPA, complex routing rules, Service Cloud can handle all of it. And then another area that we've opened up in the last couple of years too is operations, right? We want to make sure that not just agents, are kind of empowered, but also the frontline managers, right? The operational teams, they have visibility into what's happening in the support center or the contact center, with visibility into reporting and conversation mining, all sorts of different capability. And we also do this in an omni-channel manner, right? So We have a lot of first party. I think we have probably the richest first party offerings for our channels amongst like the set of vendors that we are typically compared against. We also have the number one ecosystem of connection to other, vendors, right? So whether it's, integrating voice as a first party channel, we're very unique in our partnerships with Amazon and Genesis here. We're very unique in the way that we partner with WhatsApp to bring that into your, support center. But then, at the top, we also have a flavor of Service Cloud for a number of different industries, right? So there is a financial services iteration. There's a healthcare and life sciences iteration. There's a manufacturing iteration that we've been working on, right? Public sector, right? So it kind of takes Service Cloud and executes it to that last mile so that, all these workflows and the data model and integrations are built into the software to give you better time to value, faster implementation, and just reduce the burden of potential customization and overall complexity. So I just wanted to spend a minute on this because I think it's really important to understand when you buy Service Cloud, when you use Service Cloud, you are not just using case management knowledge. There's actually a ton of different services in the box that you can kind of assemble together to deliver whatever kind of service makes the most sense for your business and for your customers. So we can go to the next one here and just talk. So let's talk a little bit about AI, right? We kind of glossed over it on the other one, but we're here to talk about AI. So I think the first thing that's important is that we have had AI in Service Cloud for a number of years now, and we have thousands of customers using this. Oh, sorry. But there's three different ways that we've kind of delivered AI for service to date, right? We focused a lot on just core automation, right, with things like chatbots or making recommendations to agents, next best action, things like that. We also have a lot of AI-enabled assistance, right? So, for example, case classification is a very popular capability that's used by our customers. So when a case comes in, we can automatically tag, the different kind of fields or whatever are on the case itself. We can also use that as part of our routing logic. We've also focused a lot on helping agents with automating, kind of lame parts of doing service, right? Like case wrap up, right? There's no reason that an agent should be sitting there writing up their after call work notes. We should be able to automate that for them. And then we've also focused a lot on optimization. So how can we deliver really intelligent recommendations with the right offers to our agents? How can we provide new predictive and insights and intelligence to service operational teams? And then one of our newest innovations is conversation mining, right? So how can we harness the whole corpus of interactions that we've had with our customers across email and chat? We're working on voice, and deliver those insights so that service operation can fine tune and kind of improve the service that we're delivering to customers so we can increase things like self-service and CSAT. So just, in Salesforce, we have had AI for a number of years, but what we're really excited about is, and we can go to the next slide here, Patrick, is the generative AI opportunity for service. Now, there are a number of generative AI things that are in Salesforce in Service Cloud today, right? We're doing things on knowledge management and conversational, whatever. We're really excited about the opportunity with Einstein Copilots for service. So what Einstein Copilot for Service is designed to do is work for a number of different constituencies. We want to support agents, we want to support customers, we want to support supervisors with a conversational multi-turn experience. It's grounded on your customer data and your service data, and also delivers actionability, right? If you look across, everyone in this industry is doing something around generative AI, but a lot of them, if you actually look at them, are kind of surface level today. It's let me summarize a case or generate a very simple kind of email response. We want to go further, right? We actually want to take the entire context of your customer interaction, deliver smart recommendations, but also give agents tools and customers tools to actually action on that. We want these copilots to be doing things for agents, like resolving a case, wrapping up a case, or for customers with like a kind of a next generation conversational experience. And again, all of this is on a deep foundation of trust and access to customer data, because again, we feel like without really leveraging that customer data, if the AI doesn't have the context of your customer, it's not actually going to be all that useful, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of kind of bad examples out there already where you're talking to some kind of generative AI, and it's it increases the risk of hallucination, and also again just the general utility of what that solution should look like. So let me go to one more slide, and then I'll pass it over to Patrick to kind of talk more about how NeuroFlash is practically delivering this for customers. But I just want to wrap my section just on a quick summary. We spend a lot of time talking to customers about, hey, why did you choose Salesforce? Why are you using Salesforce? And the feedback that we've gotten over the years, it really boils down to 5 key factors. So number one, I talked about this a little bit, but it's just the complete nature of what Service Cloud is delivering. For any kind of service in any industry and any size of customer, any level of complexity, Service Cloud has customers doing that today, right? We are the most comprehensive service platform in the market. But I think what's also important is pairing that with the foundation of the product, which is a Salesforce platform. Customers have a lot of different requirements, whether it's, this is what I want the agent desktop to look like, or this is how I want this automated process to work, or this is how I want this integration to work. And this is where our low-code platform kind of comes in. It's really easy to modify Service Cloud to kind of tweak it for your own unique use case. And as I've said a couple times, I don't think there's any 2 customers in the world who have the exact same requirements. So that flexibility that the platform kind of delivers is a key value add. Another thing is customer data, right? We think it's really important to have your customer data be unified across all these different touch points and modalities. And that's especially apparent when it comes to AI, right? I kind of alluded to this on the last slide, but what we really want to enable is we want to enable our customers to design things like prompts and kind of access the full context of what that customer's interaction and history is with you as a company, because those are all important inputs into what recommendation or what generative kind of experience is delivered back from the model, right? Without that data, we just don't think that AI can truly be effective. But also trust. Trust is deeply built into how we've approached the market for a number of years now, and it's especially a huge part of what we're doing with AI. Everything that we do, we have a very robust, ethical and humane use team that has been working with our product organization to build safeguards and best practices natively into our tool to make sure that our customers aren't exposed. There aren't risks with the AI that we're trying to deliver, right? There's not going to be hallucination. There's not going to be kind of bad experiences for customers or even frankly for agents. But then the last but certainly not least is our partner ecosystem. And NeuroFlash is a great example of that. Given that Salesforce is the #1 service platform in the market, that's attracted a ton of just amazing ISVs and partners to our platform. If there's an integration that you need, it probably already exists for Salesforce. And there's more talent that understands kind of Service Cloud and kind of the Salesforce platform than any other alternative in the market. And again, NeuroFlash is a fantastic example and a testament to the strength of our ecosystem. So with that, Patrick, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dan, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak alongside you again. As mentioned at the beginning, my name is Patrick Barrys. I'm head of product and innovation at NeuroFlash, which is one of the leading partners for Service Cloud and for Salesforce more broadly. NeuroFlash is really focused on the areas of contact center, including Amazon Connect and Service Cloud Voice, generative AI and Einstein, field service, and Sales Cloud and Revenue Cloud. NeuroFlash has only been around about 7 years, but is already one of the top 7 partners in the world for these categories with Salesforce, and is very focused on customer success and driving business outcomes. And so, as Dan mentioned briefly at the beginning, NeuroFlash is really known as the company who makes these things real for customers based on their specific needs, their industry and sub-industry, and leveraging the great technology that's available from Salesforce and other partners like Amazon or MuleSoft as part of Salesforce, Tableau, DocuSign, and others. And we're really proud of the track record that NeuroFlash has put in place in helping customers really drive business results with those kind of technologies. But obviously, we're here today to talk about AI. So let's talk a little bit about AI in a few different dimensions in service. The first dimension is around self-service. And what we're seeing, what NeuroFlash is seeing with our customers and kind of on the ground, is that companies are continually looking for an increase in efficiency. And we'll see that across all the different dimensions. In the case of self-service, that's really about how do you enable technology and channels and capabilities that your customers can leverage to quickly get the answer they need. One of the secrets of high CSAT in service is really respecting your customers' time and effort. And so if you can enable them to get their answer or to get their problem resolved quickly, that's really the primary thing that they're looking for service. And so, thinking about how can AI and other technologies help enable that increase in efficiency on the self-service side is one of the things that we see a lot of companies looking for. Of course, there's been a huge rise in the use of bots across channels over the last 10 years. There was certainly a spike during the COVID period where that went even higher for a little while. But what we see there is sort of a growing acceptance of bots, and in some cases, even a preference for using bots, rather than dialing into an 800 number, for example, if you can provide a way for them to solve their problem, and if the bot can understand their needs. Obviously, cost effectiveness is something that we're constantly chasing around service. In the case of self-service, part of that goes to how can we get the right channels used for the right problems or the right customer base? How can we kind of guide people to the channels that make the most sense or are most efficient for that specific problem type? That was one of the early learnings we had at Salesforce with some of our early bot customers years and years and years ago. Many of you may remember us talking about the Adidas story quite a bit when I was at Salesforce as one of our early, really deeply using bot customers. And one of the things we quickly discovered was you can dramatically increase CSAT with the bot and increase the effectiveness of the bot if you bifurcate the problems to those which are going to be good for a bot and those which are not. For example, in the case of Adidas, where's my order, or change my address, or make this change to my record. Those are good potentials for a bot solution. Which shoes go with which dress? Maybe not so much. And so, if you can bifurcate that and kind of get the right channels being used and the right technologies being used, you can really drive CSAT and effectiveness there. Of course, the idea of elimination of wait times by using technologies such as, would you like to get off the IVR and have a text conversation right now, or scheduled callbacks, or pushing solutions to someone who's, asking questions and queries. Those are all ways that, we see continue to get accessed more and more in the times that we're in, and with the priorities that our customers are focusing on. So how can AI help with those things? Well, first of all, obviously there are Gen AI powered bots that are available now, and we are already helping customers with that capability. Sometimes that's not a big leap. Sometimes that's keep using the bot that you have, but if the bot doesn't understand the question, then take that intent and ship it out to Gen AI to help with the language understanding, and then bring that back into your existing process. So that's sort of an enhancement to an existing process that we see a lot of customers using. It cuts down on costs, but it allows you to really kind of extend your capabilities using the latest technologies here. The idea of a single bot across channels is gaining more and more traction. That's always been sort of a holy grail for people in the service world. It's a lot more possible now based on the technologies that we have leading from both Salesforce and AWS to be able to do that. The idea of having bots that are specific to certain problem types and being able to sort of hand something seamlessly, technically from one bot to another, although the end user, shouldn't be seeing that, but to be able to hand it to a specialist who's kind of pre-built for specific tasks and specific solutions is another thing that we starting to work a lot with customers about. What is your strategy around using these technologies? What we called predictive AI, and now with generative AI, again, they have strengths and weaknesses for different problem types. And so how do you use the right one for the right thing? And to do that in a seamless process-wise, so that you're not, sort of handing things off back and forth all the time, but you're getting the benefit of both of those things. The other thing that I really like in self-service is the idea of guiding workflows, or guiding an end user through a problem resolution. The reason that I think that's really potentially very powerful is, of course, as you invest in self-service, you are, deflecting from issues coming into the contact center and from having to deal with those with your people and with your funds. But the idea of, if you can guide someone through a solution, if you can take them step by step through maybe what feels like a complex solution, you can now expand the portfolio of things that you offer for self-service. For example, today, maybe there are some simple things that you let customers sort of self-serve on, but the more complex things you hold back from them, and you make them talk to somebody. Well, if you can have higher confidence that by guiding them, you can increase their chance of success, you can make that portfolio bigger on the self-service side. And the reason that's such a win-win is that a lot of customers would rather just get their problem resolved as quickly and easily as possible, don't necessarily want to call into a contact center. And on the contact center side, if you can get problems solved that way, then that's a win, on the efficiency and cost side. So if you can expand that portfolio and self-service because you now have technology that guides someone through the process, then that's this huge win-win for both the customer side of things and also the contact center side of things. So I really like that area of the combination of, self-service plus technologies like AI, both predictive and generative, to be able to help customers expand that portfolio so that their customers now have more things that they can do themselves, which is what they're looking for, and of course benefits us in the contact center as well. So that's a view into some of the things we're doing today with customers on the self-service side. In the contact center, of course, efficiency is still top of mind for everybody. And that, probably will stay the case for a while. Certainly it's efficiency with CSAT, that's certainly important to most of our customers for sure. But we see, kind of people looking at agent assistance now. Copilot is an example of that, and there are others as well. The ability for you to help your agents and to sort of give your agents superpowers. And one of the reasons for that is that as you take more and more things off from a self-service perspective or an automated perspective, the cases or the issues that your agents are handling in the contact center are actually the more complex ones. So there's an actual shift toward complexity in the contact center because the easier things should be peeled off by self-service and automation. So in that more complex world, what kind of tools do you need to have in place to help your agents in that more complex, workflow? And so thinking about the kind of assistance that agents need, the kind of information that should be pushed to them, the idea of the workspace that they're in being dynamic and providing the right answer at the right time instead of, static set of a lot of information. We also see a lot of need and requests for sort of easier information retrieval. I've got data in a lot of different sources. It's not all the same format, but my agents need more and more data these days to solve problems. And so how do we bring that information to them? How do we reduce their effort from having to search, and especially search in multiple places, to have that information actually pushed? We see things like AI-enabled knowledge search, right, which is available from Salesforce, and things like recommended replies. Understanding the question that's being asked and the content that's available to actually craft what a draft reply might need to look like. And then we see people starting to dig into conversational insights. That is, you have sort of almost a greenfield opportunity to get business data out of all of these conversations that you have on record from your customers. Tens of thousands of conversations that you've had with customers that can tell you things like, where are they getting stuck? Where are they frustrated? What language do they use? What products are they interested in, when they own a certain product? And that kind of information can be really, really valuable to your organization, and nobody else has access to that information. Your competitors don't have access to that information, right? So you can dig into that and get these kind of nuggets of information if you start to dig into the data that you already own and that you're accumulating more and more of every day. So we see customers, leveraging things like transcription for voice calls to create those transcripts and then be able to data mine that. We see customers looking to use methods of getting information out of structured data like knowledge, not just the knowledge article that I should be looking at, but in fact the answer that's in the knowledge article. And we can see this, in our daily lives as well. Google now has rebuilt their homepage, for example, or their search results page that focuses first on a paragraph answer written by Gen AI to the question. It's not just links to places that might have the answer. It's actually the answer first, and then more information available. And so we see customers starting to leverage that quite a bit. And we've worked with a bunch of customers in that world. Again, there's some pre-built content there from Salesforce, pre-built solutions there for content summarization, for recommended replies, et cetera, that are really no-brainers and quite easy to implement and turn on. And we're starting there with a lot of customers and then going bigger in terms of their specific needs and customization. The other thing that I really am passionate about is the concept of AI plus person, not AI, as sort of the solution to everything in the world, but rather dividing and putting together a symbiosis between the technology and the people. So there are things that people are good at, then there are things that AI is good at, and being able to leverage sort of the best of both symbiotically is really, I think, what the future of service looks like. So for example, AI is really good at finding information, finding a needle in a haystack. With generative AI, it's getting much better at language, but people are still much better at ambiguity. They're still better at focusing on a person. They're better at empathy. They're better at actually handling customers. And so how do we put those two things together in a way that really helps drive your business forward, but also elevates your people? We don't want to end up with a situation where your people feel like AI is watching them or grading them or telling them what they're doing wrong, but rather that AI is their superpower. AI is their capability to solve the problems and to help customers, which is what your people want to do. At the same time, the people should be able to give input on how well the AI is working for them. The idea of sort of automatic content or quality management happening from an AI perspective is certainly something we will see more traction on. But the opposite is also true, which is how can your agents give feedback on the recommendations they're getting? And how do you bring that into your workflow and get incrementally better? That way, your people feel like they're part of the solution. They feel like they're shaping it. They feel like they are involved and they are, helping direct it for their own benefit. And that really helps a lot on the change management side, because you don't want to be in a position where you're sort of pushing things onto, your agents. After all, at that moment of truth, they represent your entire company with that customer. Your customer is on the line with that one agent, but that agent is representing everything that you own. And so really making them involved and feel like they're part of the solution, and then leveraging what the technology is good at and the people are good at to provide something where that combination is even bigger than the sum of the parts is something that we think a lot about. NeuroFlash has a dedicated change management process that's specifically focused on bringing your people along and getting the most out of the technologies you have through adoption and through this kind of joint effort between person and machine. Of course, the other side of that coin is also the different technologies playing together, right? The predictive AI and then the generative AI. There's really no solution out there that only leverages generative AI, because in order to kind of bring that into the data that you have to make it actionable, there's always a component which is predictive AI as well. So working with customers to kind of understand the difference between them and how to bring them together to create the best result is something that we're spending a lot of time on right now with some of our customers who are working in this space. And I mentioned before the conversational insights piece, but one of the things that I think is unique about the situation with Salesforce is, of course, they have the customer-centric data. They have the UI where your agents are spending all of their time. They have some of the leading predictive AI in the world, and now are bringing in generative AI too. But that means that that's the layer of action, right? So you're getting data, but you're also taking action in that space. You're automating solutions and kind of multiplying the effect that you're getting from the actual data and from the technologies like AI by actually bringing that to either the customer who's in front of you, or the process that you're trying to affect, or the automation that you're kicking off because of that. So that combination of sort of data AI to action is something that we are working with a lot of customers about too. Especially in verticals like FinServe, for example, or in the retail space, where there's this high volume of customer to service rep, right? There's a big ratio. And so automation becomes a big part of that answer, and sort of how do we translate this data that we're now able to access into action? That becomes a really important part of the conversation that we often hold with customers as part of our discovery. But of course, AI also applies to the field service space, the kind of service that is done out in front of a customer rather than in a contact center. And I think there's a lot of unique things about that space which make AI really applicable and helpful. We see customers who are, of course, driving for efficiency there. We also see increased complexity that's happening out in those spaces, more complex problems, more complex pieces of assets that are being worked on. And really more and more expectations on those mobile workers while they're out there in front of the customer and in the field. Well, of course, we also see high turnover in that space in some cases, a deep need for training, both for the turnover purposes and also just for continued upskilling. And the idea of service as a service, meaning that, customers are in many times buying a subscription to something, which implies or includes the actual service of those things. And so because that now becomes, quote, the product, there's a different level of need for, field technicians and field workers, because that customer is paying much more directly for that actual service capability. And so that pushes companies to look at AI to do things like summarize the work, to do things like leverage speech to text for filling in forms or creating a quote, or engaging with the system or asking questions, because they are in the field, they are in front of the customer, they may be on a mobile device form factor. They may have certainly they do have time crunch, and they have other jobs to get to. And so we see customers leveraging those kind of capabilities, and we have some unique offerings in that space specifically for the mobile worker. The idea of AI being able to suggest what needs to happen next, what should happen next for this customer regarding an offer, what should happen next on this device based on the process that's been followed in the past. And then, of course, those mobile workers have just as much need, if not more, for accessing information in structured data like knowledge. So being able to ask a question and then get the answer to the question, and not instead be served up, here's 5 knowledge articles that might contain the answer. That's really important when you're under time crunch and you're on a mobile device and you're trying to get a customer back up and working. And so AI can really help in those areas, and we've seen some really interesting and cool results in that field service space, specifically about tailoring the kind of technologies we now have access to the challenges that our customers have out in the field. Obviously, predictive service is something we've talked about for a while, but as the technology evolves to find trends and to understand bigger context, then our ability to find and predict those kind of challenges coming up gets greater and greater. And one of the things that Gen AI allows us to do is to more deeply understand the data that we have that's in language, free-form text, to be able to better use that data to help predict. And so predictive AI obviously has been able to spot patterns and look for specific pieces of data and connect some of the dots for us. But generative AI allows us to access much more data because of the ability to much better understand the language that it's written in, and therefore we have more data points to connect, which really help on that predictive front. So those are a few things that we are really seeing out in the field, on the ground with customers, what we're helping customers achieve. And we've seen some really great results as customers have started to use this technology. And I want to show you sort of a video demo of how all of this can kind of come together and use many of these parts together in this specific story. So let me launch that video and we can talk about it afterwards.
Humans have an unmatched advantage when it comes to connecting with others in context, while machines and AI are incredible at taking that context and doing the repetitive tasks that humans don't need to do. So how do we take this concept and bring it together in the context of sales or service? NeuroFlash has built on top of Einstein GPT to curate experiences for customers and agents, where we can apply these concepts directly to our everyday workflow. What you see here is a conversation that has just ended between Jad, a lead, and Patrick, a sales rep. The technology powering this was Service Cloud Voice, meaning this conversation was transcribed in real time. So Salesforce has access to this interaction as if it were a digital channel. Usually, when a conversation is over, most reps are asked to summarize it and store it on a record for tracking and contextual purposes. With generative AI, this is one of those repetitive tasks that can be completed in the backend with no human intervention. Patrick can simply click Get Call Summary, and his entire conversation will be summarized in a few bullets, without spending any time summarizing or taking notes. But that's not all. In this scenario, generative AI wasn't just doing what it was told. It was also working on other recommendations in the background. It was able to pull up products of interest based on the conversation, and provide Patrick with a confidence threshold on these items. Patrick is also provided with recommended next steps in generating a follow-up email and drafting a knowledge article based on the conversation. One of the most important aspects is the human to AI feedback loop. The model is asking how helpful these suggestions were. We have a human working on this interaction who fully understands the context. Using his brain to make the AI smarter and work harder for us in the future is critical. This feedback goes back into the model and affects future suggestions in similar situations. This time, it was very helpful, so that's what Patrick responds. Now let's move to the recommended next steps. Patrick has the option to generate a follow-up email, but first, it's going to request more context from the user. It asks Patrick what products Jad may be interested in based on the conversations, with recommendations around GPT and field service, all while allowing him to make modifications and select other checkboxes. It also asks about establishing a writing style. Patrick can select which role best suits Jad. The slider towards the bottom is for reps to determine how technical they want this email to be. When Patrick hits the Generate Email button, you guessed it, the email is generated for him. The tedious task of writing this email has been eliminated for the rep, but the context from the interaction was still leveraged. You can see it's now allowing Patrick to select from a recipient email. It also gives a subject line, which can be modified. From there, Patrick can see the body of the email and click Send. Just like that, generative AI has made this task so simple. Since Patrick didn't like the subject line and changed it, he can provide that feedback to the model by saying it wasn't super helpful. In natural language, he gives the feedback that it should be more specific, making the model smarter for next time. Now let's see the next recommended step, which is the option to draft an article and very similarly provide context from the human point of view. Patrick can select how technical he wants this knowledge article to be, as well as who the audience is. He can review the suggested title and data category and make changes if needed. Again, it asks for feedback on how helpful this was. In this case, it was very helpful, so Patrick selects that. This has been just one small example of how generative AI can power agents and how agents can make your entire business better. AI is incredibly powerful. Humans are incredibly powerful. When both are working in synergy to provide value for your business, the entire space can be revolutionized. Interested in learning more? Check out the full webinar. Read the description for details.
Whoops, let me pause that. There we go. Well, so that's an example that I wanted to share specifically because it brings together the capabilities that we were talking about around humans and technology, and getting the most out of your business and your people really is about bringing both of those things together. Obviously, it all starts with data and then goes from from there into capabilities that you're using today, whether it be automation or predictive technologies. But generative AI can layer into that and really provide results which have never been seen before. The idea of taking what the technology is good at, taking what the people are good at, and then seamlessly kind of bringing them into sort of an overall workflow which leverages both is something that I think is really important in the future of this technology. And if we're going to get the most out of it. We've been super happy to work with a lot of great brands to drive those technologies into their organization to really help them get the most out of their investments, both in Salesforce and in generative AI more broadly. And we're couldn't be more excited about the future that we have together to drive bigger and better results than we ever have, based on the amazing technology that our partners continue to put out. And the amazing conversations that we continue to have with our customers about where they're trying to take their business. If you're interested in going down this path or starting on your own AI journey, here's how you can contact NeuroFlash. We actually have a free readiness assessment that we can help you run to understand where you are today on your technology journey, what you might want to do next, and help create a roadmap or a North Star for where you might want to go. We also have a lot of deep engagements with customers well beyond that, of course, in actually driving technology like Salesforce has released directly into their organization. And then, of course, asking the big questions about where do you want to go tomorrow? What would you like to do? And how can we, help solve that for you with the technology of today and the technology of tomorrow? So with that, I think we're going to open it up to questions. Again, Dan, thank you so much for being such an amazing partner, both personally and professionally over the years. And I think Kelsey's going to help us with Q&A.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you both so much for the insight. We did receive quite a few questions throughout. So I know we've got about 14 minutes left for the event. So I thought we can just start tackling some of these questions. And again, if there's more, just throw them in the chat and we'll make sure we get them answered. First question is for you, Dan. So is it GA today to allow Einstein to be grounded in doc and PDF files that are stored on platform? At least for my organization, this would be one of the richest sources of truth as it relates to procedures and policies that I could see have a major benefit for Copilot for agents.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something we have has come up, I think, in almost every conversation we've had with customers around like grounding replies on knowledge, because not all of your knowledge lives in Salesforce knowledge articles. So we have something called unified knowledge, which I think it's in beta right now, and it should be released. I think it goes GA in the summer release this year. So safe harbor slide, but I think it's on track for GA in the summer release. And the whole idea of unified knowledge is to kind of leverage third-party sources of knowledge as part of the generative experience in Service Cloud, whether it's, you know, grounding an email reply or whatever. It doesn't work directly with like uploading a PDF or like a Word document, but what it does do is integrate with sources like SharePoint, Google Drive. If you use like Guru or something, like there's a lot of different, like I think Confluence is one of the connectors. If your knowledge exists in those repositories, that's what kind of unified knowledge is designed to do, is kind of leverage that in the context of whatever other generative experience. So that's the way that we're kind of attacking that problem today, is through the unified knowledge capability.
And there are some creative ways to potentially get some of the information that's in documents, including PDFs, to be more reflected in Salesforce. And once it is, then obviously, you know, it certainly can be grounded based on that. So I think if that's the problem statement, there's 3 or 4 branches that I can think of on how to maybe solve that for you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Next question is for you, Patrick. So obviously, with all the GA features live now, AI is going to be evolving, right? New features keep coming out. We know there's some summer releases on the Salesforce side.
Mm-hmm.
What should companies be doing right now?
Yeah, and just for grounding, for those of you who aren't aware, the summer release for Salesforce will be in sandboxes in May and production environments in June. So May is just a couple months away here, so that's pretty quick. In terms of what customers should be doing now, I think, you know, we've learned a lot over the years, of the last couple decades, in using AI in business systems, and I think what we've learned is, you know, the customers who are going to be successful in 2 years are the ones who are getting their feet wet today. So I think, you know, make use of the technologies that are easily accessible. There's a bunch of pre-built capabilities specifically for service, like recommended replies, and call summarizations or conversation summarizations that are really quite easy to turn on from Salesforce. And I think you want to make sure that you're not falling behind the curve too far. We certainly hear from a lot of customers, oh, I'm not ready for that, or, you know, I've got bigger problems to solve for today. But if you don't start using this technology today, you're going to be, you know, 2 years behind when you get, you know, to that future. And so I think, you know, everybody should be getting smart on this. Everybody should be using it in at least their non-production environments. Everybody should be trying out the pre-built capabilities and seeing, you know, how those start to drive results for them, and then use that information to think bigger, use that information to plan forward. And that planning forward is also, I think, something to spend some time on. If you establish what your North Star looks like in 3-4 years, right, unconstrained by today's budget, perhaps, but in 3 or 4 years, if you know where you're going, then that means that you can make sure that the small steps you're taking today are in service of that longer destination, right? If you don't have a direction, then you can kind of wander a little bit, and you can take, you know, tangents, which maybe don't take you to where you want to go. So having an idea of your North Star, and then getting your feet wet today and learning with some of these, you know, quick to turn on technologies is, I think, what I would recommend to everybody to be doing, just so that you can be among those leaders, you know, in 18 months, 2 years, and are not, you know, sort of behind the curve there.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I think we probably have time for about 2 more questions here. So Dan, I'm going to throw this one to you as it kind of relates to Service Cloud here. How is Service Cloud uniquely positioned for customers to leverage AI? Like, why is it the right platform over others?
Oh boy. How much time we got? So I think there's a couple things that really come to mind. We strongly believe that data is kind of the key, right, to a lot of these experiences. And I think, we've done a lot over the years to unify a lot of service data, right? Whether it's conversational history, interaction history, the work that's been done over the last couple of years to bring in those call transcriptions natively into the platform. But we also think that there's a lot of data outside of the domain and the silo of service. It's also relevant for these experiences, right? Like, for example, in financial services, it's probably important to understand that the customer is just looking at the mortgage application, part of your web page when you're interacting with them, right? And factoring a generative response. Or, there might be, related information in some downstream, supply chain system that's related to a customer order that's important context for whatever generative experience. And so that's where our data cloud kind of comes in, right? Is not just to leverage the data that would natively be in your CRM, but take all the third-party data too with a unified ID and kind of use that in concert. So data is one. I think that the second thing though is kind of low code extensibility. So we're shipping things like our prompt builder and Copilot Studio. I think prompt builder is a great example of how you can kind of construct the different prompts that are happening behind the scenes for things like generating an email reply, or you're almost creating templates. But you can go in there and you can actually determine like which pieces of customer data do I need to ground this on to provide the model with enough context to give me a trusted response that is actually a quality response that I can actually use. And I think that the third kind of thing that I would kind of hit on is the general flexibility of kind of the infrastructure that we're talking about here, right? We talked a lot about trust and everything that's consistent across the board, but we also want to give customers flexibility in the model that they can use to kind of power these experiences behind the scenes. I know, at OpenAI, a lot of people are kind of using it, but there's so much innovation that's happening in that space, right? The open source community is just incredible, the amount of innovation going on there. There's different sizes of models, right? We can run certain models locally on a device. Customers are kind of using there's so much choice out there in the market. It's not just a one horse race. And so we think it's really important that, our customers are going to have different requirements. Some of them might be building their own models, using some stuff from open source. Some might want to use a different provider, like, maybe Anthropic or something, or Google. And so we want to ensure that our customers have that choice to use whatever the right model is behind the scenes. And so that's something that's a very important roadmap item for us, is just delivering that flexibility. So I think those three things generally are the things that come up most when we're talking to customers about kind of why Salesforce here.
Absolutely. And we actually got the same question a few times, so we can wrap up with this one. And I'll throw this one to you, Patrick. A customer example of how other organizations are using this today.
Yeah, well, we, some of them, the examples of customers that we're working with, we can share publicly, and some maybe we can't, but we're super happy to talk about the kinds of things that we're doing with customers. I will share one specific example around Iron Mountain, who's really, leaning in here and adopting this technology pretty quickly on the Salesforce side, and is a very deep partner with NeuroFlash as well. And they have implemented the 3 out-of-the-box capabilities from Salesforce for recommended replies and call summarization, and what's the third one? Can't remember the third one right now. But they've implemented those 3, and they've already seen 20% reduction in AHT in 30 days. And obviously, the goal is to continue to iterate and get better and better. And so that's just the first phase of improvement. And if you think about your own contact centers and the efficiencies that you're driving for, a 20% improvement is nothing to sneeze at, even by itself. But then to think about that as the baseline, and now you learn from that and iterate and get better. Something we learned with bots, years ago, was that you don't go off and build the perfect bot for 6 months and then unleash it on the world. That doesn't tend to work really well. Instead, you build something based on the conversations you've had in the past that you think is, good. And then you get data and you iterate quickly. And that takes you from good to, really good to great. But this kind of technology really takes iteration. And so, those are some of the early results that customers are seeing. We're also working with a lot of customers in the fin space, again, based on the number of customers that they're supporting and the number of agents that they have. Being able to do more things on the self-service side and being able to assist those agents, when they are on the phone is something that's really, really pressing in that vertical as well as others.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a great answer. So thank you, Dan and Patrick, for your insight today. And thanks everyone for listening in. We definitely hope that this session provided you with ideas and a roadmap on how to get started with AI and Service Cloud. I know I started with jokes today, but I don't have any to end with. So we'll go ahead and end today's session. We will send this recording out, but appreciate everybody's time. Thanks all.
Thank you so much.